Hello, welcome back. We're invited today with this discussion to give it up already. I know, yeah. Give it up already. Give up what? Attempting to make the meaningless meaningful. So that's what we're invited to give up. Any attempt, any effort to make what is utterly meaningless meaningful. Attempts to ascribe meaning to nothing. So let's talk a little bit more today about giving up trying to understand the ego's world. The ego's world. Let's entertain the idea of giving up trying to understand that. That's what our inner teacher would like us to do. And that's what our inner teacher invites us to do, to give up trying to understand all of this. It's nothing. It's nothing. It is completely fabricated, made up. It's our imagination, like daydreams, or like a dream that we have at night. It's a dream. It does not exist. Yes, you heard that right. It does not exist. If you're new to this material, welcome. If you've been doing this for 20 or 30 years, again, welcome. I'm glad you're joining us here. These ideas aim to flip our perception completely around, to turn it right side up. It is upside down. We're about perceiving things truly here. We're learning to perceive things as they are. So, in truth, there is no world. Isn't that exciting? This thing, this spinning ball of rock that we call home, is not our home. Try convincing the ego of that. Yeah, reject, right? So if you find yourself rejecting these ideas, welcome to the path. We're about turning our perception right side up, completely around. We do not see things as they truly are. When you consider this image to be you, you're not seeing things as they truly are. And none of us is. Therefore, we need further elaboration of these points. And happily, we get some very thorough and very succinct explanation here in the text of A Course in Miracles, specifically chapter 7, section 6, From Vigilance to Peace. Today, we're looking at paragraphs 10 and 11. You know what I'm about to say next. I invite you to read them over and over and over again. And perhaps our discussion here in this video series will help eliminate some of these ideas for you. That's my hope in offering these, is that it inspires you to practice, to extend love to the Son of God, to extend love to yourself. The Son of God is you. So is not the Son of God worthy of love? Of course he is. Yeah, you too. Definitely. We're invited to just give up what amounts to a useless attempt to try to understand all this. And you know what? I realize full well the inculcation of our societies, our parents, our school system, the indoctrination, because that's really what it is, our conditioning to see this world as real. when deep down there is a part of our mind that knows full well that it's not. This is the part of our mind, i.e., your inner teacher, that has you interested in spirituality in the first place. So you might be thinking, well, why would I study and follow this course? Why would I attempt to learn this course that contradicts everything that I see with my eyes, with the body's eyes? Actually, sight is not with the body's eyes. Vision is with the mind. Think of how vividly we dream from time to time at night. When we're dreaming, everything that we see, we don't see with the body's eyes, they're closed. Yet everything seems so vivid and so real. We might be eating something and we actually taste the food that we're eating in the dream. If we're touching something or someone, we actually feel it in the dream. Everything appears so vivid and so real, and oftentimes so incredibly random that it just seems real. But then we wake up and it's as though the dream were never there. It wasn't. This is exactly the same. So we'll talk here in the next few minutes about a point that this course makes that we need to have reinforced, that all of this is in our mind. Having made it, we can unmake it. It's a choice. We're invited to choose that right now in the present moment. It's the choice that we have to make, to stay stuck or not, to wake up or not. It's our choice. So your being, your very being, is the knowledge of God. When we talk about knowledge here in A Course in Miracles, we talk about perception and knowledge. We don't perceive things truly. When we see ourselves as an ego, when we see ourselves as individuals separate from other individuals, we're not seeing things as they are. So first of all, we learn under the guidance of our inner teacher, enter this course, to see things as they are. We learn to perceive truly. We learn to perceive who our brother is, who we are. When we perceive truly, then just like that, in this course, in the language of this course, it said God takes the final step himself. So what this means is that when we learn to perceive truly, our perception is translated easily and instantly into knowledge. We simply know God. We're awake, at home, alive in God, where we've always been. So your being is the knowledge of God, at home in God, one with your source. A very, very frequent and powerful idea from A Course in Miracles is the statement that ideas leave not their source. So I invite you to think about the fact that we're an idea, the thought of God, which we're called in this course more than once, the thought of God. Ideas, thoughts, leave not their source. Now you are free to capitalize the S. When you see the S in lowercase in A Course in Miracles, what Jesus is telling us is that thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. We may try to dissociate them or cast them off, but we cannot. Thoughts remain in the mind of the thinker. Ideas leave not their source. What we're doing by capitalizing the S is simply stating the way it is. We're extending this principle. Thoughts of God leave not their source. We're simply having a dream that we have. It's impossible, in fact, and we're waking up to that. Now, the pace at which you do that is largely up to you. So, the question that each of us has in the present moment is, what do we choose? Do we choose our inner teacher's guidance or the insane madness of the ego? Do we choose light or dark, life or death, love or fear? However you choose to characterize that's the choice that we make in the present moment. And do you know the one that leads to happiness and the one that leads to more of the same, which you're interested in leaving behind or you wouldn't be watching? I mean, that's the case, isn't it? So your being is the knowledge of God. You've never left your source. Any belief apart from that completely obscures God to you. You've interposed ideas that aren't true. It's like erecting a barrier. It's like putting up a wall or a smoke screen or some elaborate shield or defense. It's an attempt to interpose something between ourselves, which we deem to be separate, and everyone else, everything else, including God. We see God as separate. God's not separate. There is no separation of any kind, and only God is. So where are you? What are you? Who are you? Mm, just that. One with does, in fact, mean one with. That is literal. This isn't you. Of course, the ego will resist that idea with everything it's got. And what does it have? Nothing. It's nothing. We don't have to continue to believe in nothing. We could let it go already and drop it. Because we have chosen to see ourselves as separate, because we've chosen separation, identifying as an individual, as an ego, we've chosen to go off and have our own little party. And it's a rather painful and frustrating party. So it's not really a party at all. It's painful. Because we've done this, we think, we see ourselves as having done this and guilty. So we feel an insane amount of guilt for casting heaven away. But we didn't cast it away. So while we see ourselves as having cast it away and little sinners and guilty, there's no sin. God has no ego to be offended. There is no ego. It's a simple mistake. You're not a sinner. There's no sin. Now, you may not have been told that growing up in your respective religious or spiritual traditions. I certainly wasn't at the Baptist church. But think about it. Perfect love doesn't condemn, does it? Love doesn't hold grudges. It's complete and whole And it doesn't hold grudges. It doesn't seek to punish. There's no separation at all. At all. So, what this means for us here in practice in the world is that unless we perceive God's creation truly, unless we perceive things as they are, we can't know the kingdom. We've blocked ourselves from it. So, until we perceive our brother truly, we cannot know God. Enter the practice of true forgiveness, which we do under the guidance of our inner teacher, so that we may learn to see our brother as ourself. No matter what horrendous stuff he's doing in this world. 1 = 1. God and his creation are not separate. So until we learn to see this, we can't know God. That's why the Course emphasizes true perception, learning to perceive things as they are, rather than the way we've orchestrated them and manipulated them. All we've done is manage to confuse ourselves and dig ourselves further into the wheel of suffering, samsara, from Buddhism. Yeah. I mean, that's the condition that we're in, around and around. It's a hamster wheel. And that's where we appear to be. It's where we appear to see ourselves, only that's not where we are. And there's no hamster wheel. Oh, and you're not a hamster. Isn't that exciting? That you're not a body at all. So you can't be a hamster. Sorry. Right. You get what we're saying here. It's an illusion, all of this. So until we see that, we cannot know God. Until we perceive our brother truly, until we see everything for what it actually is, we cannot know God. So we awaken from the dream in this way by learning to perceive truly. And we discover that we have always known God. We're right at home where we've always been. But here in the dream, where we appear to experience the exact opposite of that most of the time, we need healing. We need to heal the mind. So let's set about doing that today. When we see ourselves as separate from God, from each other, we see ourselves as weak, as a sinner, miserable, hopeless little sinner, which somehow we're encouraged in some traditions to wear as a badge of honor. Oh, no. Yeah, if that doesn't go down for you, I invite you to listen to your inner teacher talking to you on that one. Yeah, it shouldn't go down. God doesn't judge. I invite you to contemplate that. If you don't believe it, you don't have to. No problem. Just continue to contemplate that. I mean, you're watching up to this point. Your inner teacher has plenty to say to you. Will you listen? Because we don't believe we're part of the kingdom of God, we're really stressed out and we lash out and we attack because we feel weak. So we can't stand that feeling. We want to project it. We put it onto somebody else. It's their fault. It's your neighbor's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the weather's fault. It's the global economic system's fault. It's always something or someone else that's at fault. Now, there is no thing or no one else. There's no else. There's no separation. So what we're really attacking is nothing. Separation is a simple mistake. In other words, it's a figment of our imagination. So we're lashing out against a figment of our own imagination. It's completely useless. It's completely useless, and we're invited by our inner teacher to give it up. And we try to figure out the meaning of the world. We, with our advanced technology and scientific method and all of the intellectual trappings of modern society, wherever you live, we attempt to analyze life as we're apparently experiencing it here on Earth. So we attempt to categorize and subcategorize everything and parse it out and dice it up. Using this language, this scalpel-related language, deliberately, if that looks and seems like an attack, oh, it is most definitely. Separation? Sure. Yeah, we separate experience into component parts, neglecting the entire time the truth that experience is simply one and it's whole. We don't see it as whole. We see it as separate little component parts. Enter the practice of true forgiveness under the guidance of our inner teacher. So through this practice, we learn and we learn again, and we reinforce that the separation never occurred. Your brother did not actually do anything to you because there is no separate other. You're not separate from him. He's not separate from you. Therefore, whatever it looks like he did never in truth happened because there's never been any separation. Now, here in the world, there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on. Now, substitute another word for stuff. Starts with an S. There's a lot of that. Really, there are legitimate abuses, there are wars, there are physical assaults. So what we're doing here with the study of this course is learning to see things as they really are. Now, here in the dream, if you need to keep yourself safe, you should do that. If you need to get away from a situation, then get away from that situation. If you need to get away from someone, get away from someone. Nobody's saying, sit there and take the abuse. Now, why is that so important if this is all a dream? Well, it is a dream. However, here in the dream, there are people that you reach best. They're meant to hear the word of God through you. They will respond best to you, not to me, not to anyone else, but you. You don't have to do it in the way that I'm doing it. This is my particular directive to start a YouTube channel and broadcast. Turn on the camera and microphone. That's my own directive. Yours can look completely different, but there are people out there that will relate best to you in whatever way that is. Ask your inner teacher what that is. He'll show you. So therefore, keep yourself safe. And it's still a dream. And at times it feels like a really painful, dirty, rotten, stressful, nasty, depressing, and anxiety-ridden dream. Yet a dream it remains. Truth is unchanging. Despite all of the mad wanderings that we appear to have here in the world, it doesn't affect truth at all. You're still right at home where you've always been. And this is a process of waking up to that. So we don't attempt to understand the world and parse things out into their component parts when we're legitimately and earnestly studying this course. when you're learning this course, when you're learning to forgive, you're unmaking the world, because part of this is a recognition that the separation never occurred in the first place, and it did not. So you may find yourself asking, well, how do you know? I mean, you can ask that of anybody, right? How do you know? Prove it. Right. We're so fond of proof, empirical, what we deem to be physical and concrete proof. Remember, there is no world. So what's concrete? Exactly. What's fixed and lasting? Nothing in this world. If there's no world, nothing in it is fixed and lasting. There's only God. So we give up our attempts to make all of this fixed and lasting, because it's not. This isn't fixed and lasting. I didn't have this when I was younger, right? The ego will resist your awakening in all kinds of ways. You're experiencing this already, because we all do on the path. So, let's return to this subject of proof as we wrap up here. So, if you're thinking, okay, well, prove it, I won't prove anything to you. Happily. Yeah, I'm glad. How exhausting, right? You prove it to yourself. This is what we do. We prove it to ourselves by practicing these teachings, by practically, day to day, moment to moment, applying these teachings. Our experience then shows us they're true. These ideas are true. Our experience shows us. That's our proof. It's our own experience. This is how we learn. And what more powerful way to learn a lesson? Experience. So intellectually understanding these ideas has some value, but it is nothing compared to the experience of these ideas. So forgive the Son of God and do it again and again. Get in touch with your inner teacher again and again and again. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And you'll begin, if you stick with it, and only you will know, honestly, if you're actually doing that. Only you will know. But if you do, things don't look the same. That's all we can say at this point. And perhaps you've had this experience already. So I invite you to get in touch with your inner teacher and learn this course. You're here for a reason. And I thank you very much for your not only your interest and the subscriptions and comments and questions and watches here and likes and all of that. I very much appreciate that. What's more important is your dedication and commitment to practice. So I thank you for that. Everyone thanks you for that, whether they will actually consciously say that to you or not. I just did. Thank you for your commitment and dedication to practice, which, whether you think about it or not, is the highest form of offering you can ever make. That's what your brother needs, doesn't he? Your commitment and dedication to practice. So if these ideas seem strange, I invite you to ask questions. If these ideas don't seem strange, I invite you to ask questions anyway, if they come up. And this is a perfect place to do it. So thank you to all of you who have recently done this. If there is a question that comes up enough, then I will pause our parade through the text of A Course in Miracles, which of course will still be there, right? And I'll record a separate conversation asking that question in particular. And I invite these These are very, very good on the path because there is no such thing as a question that's dumb. There is no such thing as a question that's too basic. Even the most experienced practitioners need to hear things thousands of times because it might be the 3,000th time that someone hears something where it really hits. And that's a beautiful thing when it finally lands. All right. So thank you, as always, for joining me. The subscription button's right here. That's the red arrow in the corner of our screen. And I invite you to join us. Go ahead and hit that. And thank you again for tuning in and for your dedication to practice. I appreciate it. I will see you soon.